So I've been waiting for these two Sideshow figures to arrive before I could actually do my top 12 of 2019, as both of these figures shipped on December 30th. These were two figures that I've seen at New York Comic Con and a while before then, and they looked absolutely fabulous. I said that I wanted to add both of them to my collection, so now I have them both in hand. So let's open them up and let's review them. Thank you for tuning in to Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop. On today's review, we take a look at the Marvel Sideshow exclusive Red Skull. Today I'll be reviewing this figure in 6 categories: accessories, articulation, design, is it essential to your collection, functionality, and price. Once all scores are totaled, I'll give you my opinion if this figure is a pass or a purchase. So I'm excited to have this. I am expecting this to be the definitive Red Skull in my collection, as it will actually be the only Red Skull that I have in my collection, at least in 1/6 scale anyway. So for accessory, Red Skull comes with a good amount of accessories. So let's start with taking a look at the hands. He comes with 4 pair of hands in total. The hands are fine. What I do like about the hands is that you can actually see the lines, the knuckles, and print work underneath. I really like that. And I like the fact that Sideshow decided to go with a peg that actually matches the flesh tone. Even though the peg is actually hidden by the clothing, I really like that they chose to do this. In addition, we get this cane, which I absolutely love. And this is probably my favorite out of all the accessories. It is made out of wood, excuse me, not wood. It is made out of a metal material, and the skull is painted phenomenally in a crimson metallic red, and it really looks fantastic. Let me just see if I can turn the light a little bit to see if you can really see how good this thing looks. And if you go all the way to the bottom, I like that the tip of the cane is done with a sort of stainless steel finish. So we receive what I'm going to call the blue cube, and I'm going to leave it at that, as this figure is no way mimic after the MCU. So I have no idea what this was or if it even was a thing within the comics. So we'll stick to blue cube. It is cut pretty clean, but you can see some rough edges along here. Aside from that, we do receive a pistol, and this thing also looks great. Really like, again, just how they carrying on with the skulls, the skull in the back. That looks phenomenal. I like the mesh type of look here along the handle, and what looks to be sort of like tentacles wrapped around the barrel of the gun. We receive a blade, which isn't metal. It's actually pretty soft plastic, as you can see. This is something that I would actually worry about breaking. And again, done with the skull. And we receive 2 head sculpts. You know I love that. And they both look phenomenal. I just really like the imprints on the face here. You can actually see the ear. I liked how the rough edges of the eyebrows. This looks really great. The sculpt work is fantastic. And if you can see the eyes underneath, all done well. And we receive what I believe to be my favorite out of the 2 head sculpts. I really like the teeth. They have this I've been smoking look to them. And I really like that both head sculpts are really different from each other. And last but not least, we receive a base and stand. So with the accessory, Sideshow did not disappoint. This could have easily been a 10. However, for me, Red Skull must come with a hat and jacket. So for that, I am deducting 2 points, and for accessories, I'm giving Red Skull an 8 out of 10. So for articulation, the head is able to look up about that much. So the head and the neck are on, well, rather than say they're on a separate peg. Actually, the neck part itself isn't movable. So let's just throw this back on. So the head is able to look up about that much, which is pretty good. It is able to look down about that much. It's able to rotate a full 360 if you choose to, and you do get a great amount of pivot as well as tilt, and really no shift back and forth. So with the arm, it is able to go out about that much. Due to the cloth, I would say it's unable to go a full 360, but it is able to go way high, maybe even further than that. The arm does come all the way out. It does rotate at the shoulder. There is an upper bicep cut, and you have rotation at the wrist. The arm is double jointed, bending in a phenomenal amount. It gets no better than that. The wrists are able to hinge up and down. Really no side to side. However, it's on a ball peg, so you should get the right amount of movement that you need. And there also appears to be a working butterfly joint, giving about that much movement forward, that much backwards. So with the torso, trying to see if there is a floating piece. It is difficult for me to tell. It may take some time before I can actually figure that out. So with the torso, really no movement in what I'm assuming to be the upper part. Using the combination of the two, you get a great amount of rotation, a great amount of pivot. He's able to lean back a great amount, forward a good amount, and he does rotate at the waist only about that much. So with the legs, they're able to separate only about here. They're able to move forward here, maybe a little bit more, but I'm not going to stress the material. It's able to move backwards barely any. You do have upper rotation. Next point of rotation will be at the, will be at the foot. Knees are double jointed, bending in about that much. The boot is able to lift up that much, down that much, outwards a great amount, as well as inwards a great amount. I wasn't expecting that much articulation on the leg part. So for articulation, this figure is very solid. I wasn't expecting this range of movement, especially with the fabric. And considering Red Skull is not a character that I plan to put in wild poses, I am actually very pleased with the amount of range and movement we get. So for that, I'm going to give the Red Skull a 9 out of 10 for articulation. So for design, Sideshow killed this thing, man. I really like the head sculpt, the colors that's used, not just the maroon color that's done, but if you look at the eyes, the gloss in the eyes, if you look very close, you can see the color of the pupils. I really like the color of the teeth. And then just moving on from the head to the wardrobe itself, just looking at how the military style uniform is actually done from the lapels and so on. So just starting up top, they even implemented a button. The belt continues and works its way through, which I really like. Then starting at the very top, you see the Hydra logos, which is a continued theme on this figure. The stitch work, even though it's noticeable, it is done exceptionally clean. I really like how a lot of this part of the wardrobe anyway is just incorporated with other things. And I'll give you an example, such as the belt running across the strap and just continuing its way down, the lapels being the same color as the stash. And I really like that it's layered. That just makes it look extra great in my opinion. And the Hydra logo, which is on the belt, turning the figure to the side, the Hydra logo continues now in a red. And Sideshow just added like the phenomenal stitch work all the way here, coming just before the end of the sleeve. And that also continues all the way down on the figure to the leg. And it just looks great. Just looking at the waist area, I really like the scabbard for the blade. One thing here that's minimal that I really appreciate that Sideshow did, they simply could have made the buckles or loops the same color, but they chose to paint them gold or brass, and that just continues. So I really like the attention to detail on this figure. Even the parts with the boots here look good. Just a little gappage at the end, and that's just to give what I'm going to say is a great amount of movement within the legs below. And I just like simple things that the pegs, for example, the wrist pegs are actually painted the same color as the flesh tone. And I just really like how the pants are just puffed at the legs. Man, this thing really looks great. Phenomenal work by Sideshow. So for design, I'm going to give Red Skull a 10 out of 10. So is Red Skull essential to your collection? Just as essential as Captain America is. You can't have one without the other, in my opinion. It's the Joker to the Batman. So if you have a Captain America collection, Justice League, this is such an important character to add. So as far as being essential to your collection, this figure I'm going to give a 10 out of 10, especially being there aren't a lot of versions. We have another Red Skull from the MCU, which right now the price point for that figure is through the roof. So if you didn't buy it when it first came out, you're looking to pay $500 or more for that particular figure. So for functionality, let's simply start with some accessories. Actually, I like to work my way from the top down. So let's remove the head sculpt that comes on the figure. This pops off pretty easily. And let's place the alternate head sculpt on. Was waiting to hear a pop, which I did not. Head fits on very easily. With the hands, I've already exchanged one. I'll just show you with the other. So simply with the hands, you apply some pressure. And you actually got to give a good pull, as those are up there pretty tight. The one thing that I love about Sideshow is that the pegs are attached to the hand. I wish all companies would do this. So to apply the hand, I'm assuming it's going to be a lot easier than removing it, which it was. Just give me a moment. I want to tinker with the lighting for a moment a lot better. So I want to jump to what I'm considering the cube. I'm going to place the hand out this way. And from what I can tell, this is a hand that's made for the cube. I'm simply going to place it in, which it fits, but I'm pretty sure if I play around with it, which I am, I just want to see if it can hold it securely. So that was very easy to do, and it actually snapped in place. You can hear the sound. Just was a little difficult for me to do on camera, but he holds that very securely to where you can turn it to the side and it's still held in position. So I love hands that's created for the specific weapons that they come with. So let's not forget that we also receive a knife, and on the side of Red Skull, we have a place to put the blade, which I really like as well. And that fits in very well. One thing that I like about the gun hand is that you can actually get the trigger finger into the actual hole where the trigger is, which is great. So before I move into the other accessories, I want to talk about one glaring issue, which is the body underneath. It feels to be, I'm going to be very frank, it feels a bit cheap. Now, as I'm attempting to put Red Skull in a shooting motion, of course his clothing has something to do with it, but the body underneath truly isn't cooperating. And when I'm able to extend the arm fully, it just feels a bit cheap. What's cool now with the butterfly joint is that the arm does come across the chest a little bit. So now you can have him shooting across, which is fantastic. So now moving on to the other hands and accessories. Let me just slide Red Skull back. We have his cane, and it simply fits in just like so. It's not held, well, forget that. It is held very securely. And moving on to the last accessory that I want to show in hand will be the blade. I'm going to see if there is a left hand for it. And yes, there is. And another thing that I like is that he actually comes with trigger fingers for his right and left hand. So for functionality, the clothing. So the clothing is a bit restricted here. He's able to stretch about that much, which isn't a lot. But for Red Skull, I don't feel that that's needed. All the hands are made for particular accessories, which I truly appreciate. The pegs on the hands, I truly appreciate. The one issue with the figure is the body. It could have been of a higher quality. So really the only reduction here is because of the body itself. So for functionality, I'm going to give Red Skull an 8 out of 10. So for pricing, this is the Sideshow exclusive, which, if I'm correct, comes in at $245. That is before shipping. Those who have figures shipped from Sideshow know typically that their shipping is pretty expensive. What I didn't know is that if you actually ship more than one item at the same time, you do get a reduced shipping rate. So shipping for this figure was about $12. Also, I used a Sideshow coupon, which they had for the holiday season, which took about, give or take, $12.50 off of this figure. So let's just say the figure is $245 shipped. So is Red Skull worth the price of admission? So I can tell you, the moment I've seen this figure, I wanted it. And let me say, it does not disappoint. The head sculpts are phenomenal. I feel like whichever one that you use, and I am leaning more to this one that's in my hand. Great accessories. The detail on the clothing is phenomenal, perhaps one of Sideshow's best. We'll see once I review the Joker. You get a great amount of accessories, which really help you to display, this character in different ways. There isn't a lot that's missing. I am being greedy, but my version of Red Skull has a hat, has a coat. Doesn't always have to be on him, but he needs to at least have it. And without a question, it's something that I'm going to buy for this figure, as I can find it in the third market pretty easily. But we're not here to talk about accessories that he does not come with. My complaint or drawback with this figure is just the body. It feels a bit loose in places. It feels cheap. It feels like one of those bodies that you can buy off eBay for about $17. So I just wish Sideshow would have gave us more of a sturdy body. And simply only because of that reason, this figure will not be receiving a 10 for pricing. So I'm torn between the 7 and 8, but being that it's such a great figure, I am going to give Red Skull an 8 out of 10 for pricing, which gives Red Skull a cliff score of 53 out of 60. Is it a pass or a purchase? You've heard me raving about it. This is absolutely a purchase for me. I think that the majority of collectors who are waiting for a Red Skull will not be disappointed. If this figure drops in price over time, as some Sideshow figures typically do, I could actually see me buying another version. With that version, then I can display one of the two head sculpts that I have, so it's no reason for me to buy an exclusive. And then I can display one Red Skull the way that he is in all of his splendor, and then I can have another with the hat, with the coat. So here's Red Skull by itself. I forgot to mention in the functionality department, the stand test, and as you can see, Red Skull stands fine on his own. Here's Red Skull next to Thor Ragnarok's Thor. And here's Red Skull next to Sideshow's Joker, which I should be reviewing immediately after this video. So I want to thank you for tuning in to Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop, and I hope to see you during the next review.